But this courtroom, it wasn't playing. The polished marble floors echoed every single step like they were whispering secrets. Reporters everywhere, scribbling, whispering, peeking toward the entrance like the next bombshell was seconds away. Even the jury sat down like they already knew they were about to witness something explosive. And then, boom. The doors creaked open, and in walked the man himself, Sean Diddy. Combs. But wait, this wasn't the Diddy we've all seen dripping in diamonds and confidence. Nope. This was a man who looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. His tailored gray suit was sharp, sure, but it couldn't hide the storm underneath. His eyes didn't lock with anyone. He looked haunted. Girl, he wasn't walking into court, he was walking straight into the fire. The murmurs in the room, oh, they were ravenous. Former associates, secret spectators, celebs in oversized sunglasses trying to act invisible. It was a who's who of silent judgment. Even the judge had to slam that gavel harder than usual just to quiet the room. But the silence, it had teeth. Everyone knew something major was coming. The prosecutor, a stone-cold legend, known for shredding billionaires and breaking cover-ups like they were paper mache. She didn't yell, didn't need to. She painted a picture so chilling, the room literally felt colder. She dragged everyone through a timeline of secrets. Midnight flights, surveillance from the 90s, voices from the shadows. It was like watching Diddy's legacy being peeled apart layer by layer. She looked at the jury and said, "We're not here to attack a legacy. We're here to reveal what that legacy cost." Honey, chills. Then came the first witness, and oh, you'll want to sit for this, Diddy's former bodyguard. That's right, the one who used to guard him like a pit bull. He walked in, surrounded by U.S. Marshals like he was carrying nuclear codes. He was calm, cold, and ready to drop bombs. 6 years he worked for Diddy. He talked about secret meetings, off-the-record flights, fake rideshare companies, and mysterious briefcases. He said, get this, that one night 3 men went into a room and only one came out. The gallery gasped. The jury looked like they'd seen ghosts. And Diddy gripped the table so hard you could see the veins popping from his wrist. And then this part is unreal. The prosecutor asked, "Did you ever report this?" He said no, because when I thought about it, someone close to me disappeared. Baby! That courtroom froze. The tension, it was alive. Then came the defense. Diddy's lawyer, calm, sharp, smug. He grilled that bodyguard like a steak. Pulled out an old interview where the man once said he'd take a bullet for Diddy. Read it word for word. He treated me like family. Suddenly, that loyal protector didn't seem so saintly. The defense leaned into the jury and said, when a man tells one truth while cashing checks for another, which version is real? Ouch. Momentum shifted. But just when you thought that was it, boom again, the prosecution dropped their next bomb. Killer woman in a navy suit, no makeup, no flash, just that don't mess with me energy. She wasn't a lover, wasn't a business exec, she was worse. A quiet observer. Someone who watched, listened, and kept everything. She worked for one of Diddy's shell companies, and she came with receipts. She talked about financial documents that made 0 sense, money disappearing, companies popping up and dying overnight, payments to ghost accounts. The prosecution asked who gave these orders. She turned slowly, looked right at Diddy and said, "Mr. Combs." The entire courtroom gasped like a soap opera twist. Then she pulled out a folder. Not stories. Documents, transfers across 5 countries, fake corporations, dummy invoices, the same routing numbers that were part of international investigations. And girl, when asked why she never spoke before, she said, "Because I was warned. We know where your mother lives. Don't get curious, Mike." Drop. The defense objected, screamed hearsay. The judge sustained, but let's be real, the damage was done. Those words, they were a ghost that would haunt that courtroom forever. But hold on, it's not over. The prosecution, they brought in a forensic financial analyst, the type of man who can smell fraud from a mile away. He broke down accounts so fast it made heads spin. Millions moved through empty companies. A $2,300,000 0 cents transfer traced to a consulting agency that didn't even have a website. The kicker? Every trail led to an offshore account in the British Virgin Islands with Diddy's name on it. Let that sink in. Then came the gray room, the legend, the ghost room. The hidden space beneath Diddy's old LA studio. A former logistics guy called in out of nowhere confirmed it existed. Said it wasn't on the blueprints. Said only 3 people had access. Said there was no music equipment inside, just surveillance cams, red lights, a wall safe, envelopes marked with words like Vegas 2013 and NDA emergency. And yes, he said he once saw a revolver in that safe. You could feel the room shift. And if you think it stopped there, he said he kept a copy of a destroyed hard drive, turned it over to investigators. The defense tried to say he was disgruntled, that he was thirsty for headlines. But that man looked them in the eyes and said, "I'm tired of carrying this weight." Boom. Then came the moment, the bomb of all bombs. Diddy stood up. His lawyer warned him not to. The judge reminded him this was under oath, but he stood anyway and started talking. No notes, no script, just his voice. And the guilt in it. He said, I lived like the rules didn't apply to me. I had power, money, control, and silence. He admitted to giving orders, to knowing things he pretended not to. He didn't say he pulled triggers, but he let things happen. He admitted that threats were used, that people got paid to clean up messes, that he let fear rule his empire, that silence wasn't protection, it was a weapon. And then the line that broke the room. Even if I'm not guilty of everything they're accusing me of, I am not innocent. Tears. Gasps. The courtroom erupted. The judge slammed his gavel so hard it echoed down the hall. Diddy's team looked shocked. Reporters sprinted out of the room to file stories. The gallery looked like they'd seen a ghost. But it wasn't over yet. Even after Diddy's emotional confession, the room didn't just return to order. It couldn't. The air was different. Like someone had cracked the foundation of the courthouse and nobody knew if the building would hold. People didn't sit down right away. Some were crying, others just stared. The press section was in chaos. Reporters texting, whispering, practically vibrating with the scoop of the century. Even the marshals looked shaken. You don't see this every day. Not from him. Diddy returned to the defense table and baby, he looked like a man who had been struck by lightning. Gone was the untouchable mogul. Gone was the swagger, the posture, the pride. What was left? A man. Just a man. Haunted, tired, stripped bare. His lawyers didn't even speak to him at first. They were too busy scrambling, papers flying, assistants rushing, files being yanked from briefcases. Why? Because Diddy's confession had just flipped the entire strategy. This wasn't a defense anymore. This was damage control. The jury walked back in, slow, hesitant, changed. You could see it on their faces. Before, they were just observers. Now, they were witnesses. Witnesses to a man collapsing under the weight of his own secrets. The judge wasted no time. His voice was tight, controlled, but heavy. Given Mr. Combs' statement, he said, we will allow both sides to adjust closing arguments. The court will also confer regarding reclassification of charges. Y'all, that wasn't just legal talk. That was the sound of the trial mutating into something far bigger. The prosecution looked still, almost too still. But their eyes, you could tell, they were ready. This wasn't just about what had happened so far. It was about what was coming next. And boy, did it come. That night, it leaked. Someone, no one knows who, but someone close to the legal team dropped a bombshell to the press. Just 3 lines. Sean Combs has confessed partial culpability in a sealed incident tied to the Grey Room files. Federal prosecutors are preparing a supplemental case. A sentencing deal may be under discussion. And just like that, boom, the internet exploded. Former collaborators posting cryptic messages, blogs melting down, news shows scrambling to dissect every syllable of his confession. Late night hosts were already scripting monologues. People were asking, was this real? Was it emotional breakdown? A PR tactic? Or was this the first honest thing Diddy ever said in public? But the courtroom. That's where the real story was still unfolding. The next morning, nobody walked in casually. The press was swarming the courthouse steps like ants on sugar. Marshals doubled up at every entrance. Jurors were escorted like witnesses in a mob trial. And inside, you could hear a pin drop because what the judge said next changed everything. Due to the defendant's voluntary admissions and the newly submitted sealed evidence from federal investigators, this trial is officially suspended pending further investigation. All charges are under review for escalation. The jury is released. The room exploded. Gasps, cries. People literally looked around in confusion. Was it over? Was it just starting? Was this real life? Some jurors just sat there, stunned. One woman covered her mouth. Another nodded slowly, eyes wet. A few just stood up and walked out, silent, shocked, like they were leaving the scene of an emotional car crash. The prosecution, oh, they weren't done. They filed an immediate motion for temporary custody over the newly uncovered offshore assets. The defense demanded a sealed hearing, and everything happened so fast the reporters in the gallery could barely keep up. But Diddy? He said nothing. Not to the court, not to the press, not to anyone. He walked out of that courtroom alone. No shades, no bodyguards, no entourage, just him. And outside, silence. The crowd that had once screamed his name, asked for selfies, and begged for autographs, now
they just filmed him.
Not like a celebrity, but like a man walking into his reckoning. Over the next few days, the dominoes didn't just fall, they tumbled. Search warrants? executed. Offshore accounts frozen. NDAs that were once locked in vaults started popping up online. One by one, names began to surface. People tied to the gray room. Voice recordings. Encrypted files. Evidence that was once thought erased. A special prosecutor was appointed. Multiple grand juries were formed. And Diddy, his name didn't just stop trending as a brand, it started surfacing as evidence. This wasn't a scandal anymore. This was a reckoning. A mirror held up to an industry that had always shielded its stars behind platinum records and red carpet smiles. And when that mirror cracked, it didn't just reflect Diddy. It reflected everyone who had stayed silent, everyone who cashed checks instead of asking questions, everyone who looked the other way. There were no cameras inside that courtroom, no Instagram Live, no TMZ cam, but baby, the truth? It got out anyway, and it's still echoing because when a man like Diddy, built on power, image, and secret, stands up and admits even a sliver of guilt, that's not just a fall from grace, that's a collapse. And this time, no amount of money, lawyers, or platinum hits can undo what was said. Not when the whole world is finally listening. The world is finally listening.